Smith here, Remax Realtor, and I am here with one of my partners, Tim Scaccia. Yay! All right, we are doing a Realtor Roundtable here at the Airy Inn in Mount Airy, Maryland. And as we wait for our food, we're going to get into it and just talk a little bit about real estate, right, Tim? Is that what we're doing?
Sounds good.
So not only is Tim this young entrepreneur, but he and his wife are expecting their first baby, and they are homeowners as well. So very experienced not only in just being a realtor, but the home buying process as well. So I'm going to pick his brain a little bit about some recent transactions that he's gone through, because he's been through it and he's come out on the other end, and we're going to ask him some advice from a selling standpoint and for buyers as to prevent some of those obstacles that particular buyers have encountered. So for this one that I want to talk about, it was a transaction that was in the country, right? I think we can say.
The sticks.
Yeah,
for
right?
certain.
So it was in Frederick County. It was in Frederick County, Maryland. And tell us what was unique, first of all, about the seller. It was a little bit different. It wasn't a normal seller, and then about the property. Give me some insight as to.
For sure. It was a scenario where the seller didn't actually have any kind of attachment to the property. Her son was the owner, her son and her son's wife, or I'm not really sure what was going on there.
Okay. Partner.
Yes.
Partner
he passed away, and it was actually, it really wasn't that long ago. It was in April, and then here I am selling the house by June, July. And so essentially, before I even saw the property, she's already telling me that this is a complete act of waste. She's like, this is not going to be a good one. It's a rough one.
What?
This is the deal. This is what's going on. And so I'm like, okay, I have to see this house for myself. So you joined me actually in that first walkthrough, and it definitely had its, it had character.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. We're going to use that as a code word now. Anytime we go through I wouldn't say dilapidated. Probably wasn't dilapidated, but it was rough.
Not quite.
It was unique. It was unique. But so the seller already had made these pre-assumptions of this is the condition of the property.
Yes.
This is what I'm able to get for it. Had this indication in her head as to what she was going to receive for a value.
100%. Yeah.
And it was an estate sale. Right? So it was being sold as an estate, which adds a little bit to the trickery of the transaction. And tell me about the actual house structure itself. What was that like?
Right. So more background to it. She had just recently had the house appraised before the estate sale even took place. And that appraisal came out, and let's just say that it was on the low side. And it gave us assumptions about what the house was, how it was created, some of the background with it. And a lot of that, once that's in your head, you're approaching the whole sale with that in the back of your mind. And a lot of it was not favorable, such as pre-1976 mobile home. That's something that lenders really frown upon unless certain things are in place, such as compliance with HUD standards. We would need a lot of concrete proof and a lot of, call them historical documents to account for it. So,
because technically what we've come to learn, we've known, but you got to learn firsthand, is mobile homes cannot be purchased as with mortgage financing, right? So even when you see trailer parks and things like that, sometimes you can buy the land, but typically you're renting the land, and it's treated as an automobile.
Yep.
All right, so it was pre-1976 is the running mill of things. Okay.
Yep, and so right away that I spoke to multiple lenders, straight up, this will not qualify for conventional financing or any financing. This is going to be a cash deal, most likely. I'm like, okay, but I kind of got mixed signals on that part. It really depended on the actual integrity of the property. Does this mobile home still have wheels? Could a truck come and tow it away? If the answer is no, and there is concrete evidence, no pun intended, that there's an actual foundation, it is affixed to the land, then it will qualify. So we have that working against us, and we have the fact that it was a bit of a dump working against us too. There was some things.
She wasn't looking with her best lipstick on.
Certainly not.
Room for equity is what we like to say.
100%. Yes, it was definitely a fixer-upper and an investor's dream, as we call it. Of course, an investor did not come and acquire the property, but a handyman did. and they were very excited about the kind of work that could be done with it.
Correct, because they were walking in essentially to equity. And I think, didn't you end up getting a significant amount over that list price as well?
Yes, in fact, we never even hit the market. The minute that property listed at a very modest amount, we got an offer
It was like
a
50,
day or two in. First,
coming soon status, which
Yes.
is our favorite way.
we first confirmed that the property would fly for conventional financing because that was a whole part of their offer. I confirmed, yes, it'll work because of some of the documentation that was in place. Of course, we needed more, but that adventure will transpire.
But I do want to go ahead and toot to my team member how much above and beyond you went as the listing agent, because there's so many listing agents that have been like, oh, we're encountering some issues with conventional financing, pull it off, I got a cash buyer in my pocket, which you did have. After
Certainly.
consulting with your seller, do you still want to move forward or retreat to cash? She said, hey, let's still try and give it a go. And you did, Tim. I'm so proud of you. You went above and beyond. You made the phone calls. You did the document research. You talked to the title attorneys. You did what you needed to do to find out, is this going to qualify for this particular financing? And not only that, but I believe that buyer was utilizing, what were they utilizing, like a loan product, grant product from the loan company as well?
Yes,
Where it had to go
that's
through
correct.
some extra, it wasn't grant money, but it was something else that was being provided through the lender.
It was a county. It was a county
it
grant,
county?
and the county had just changed their policies for what kind of inspections are required to achieve that grant.
That's right, and we had a lead-based paint inspection done.
Yep.
That was fun, and of
Yes.
course, there were some little moments
There
there.
were some hiccups there as well. It became apparent that it would be one thing after another with that, but
Did the property close?
properly closed.
I mean, there's
and
that.
it closed on time. It closed
It closed early.
It closed, and it was closed when it was supposed to.
Yeah,
which was-
didn't it close early?
It was the day.
Yeah.
But it was the day of.
I think in our brains we were like, oh.
We were prepared for the worst to transpire. We're like, okay, we're gonna get this to work. We've all agreed we're gonna go through the headaches. But then I get a call from the lender. Tim, we can close right now. I just need this one document. Cool. I have that in my back pocket.
You're like, wait, this is the real estate industry. I need to see it like in writing in blood before.
Certainly, yeah. Cover my own butt. So.
Yeah, that
We
was a pretty interesting transaction, especially for you to go through, your first year of real
Certainly,
estate,
yeah.
which you've been phenomenal at. I think that gave you insight how to prep sellers when they're ready to list. Obviously, telling them, hey, it may not be as bad as you think, right?
Sure.
And then also, if there is something that you see while you're doing that property walkthrough, you can say, hey, a buyer coming through might not qualify for financing because of X, Y, Z.
Sure.
So you really got to see all the nitty gritty of the nays of what could go wrong with financing and the jumping through the hoops.
Absolutely.
Would you say that that's your craziest moment in real estate so far, or do you have a crazier moment?
No, I would definitely put that as the craziest one.
No dead bodies yet, right? We haven't discovered?
No dead bodies, but
It happens.
oh geez. I mean, I definitely got some gray hair just from that deal alone.
Well, then you're officially broken into real estate.
Great.
I mean,
On to the next.
right? Speaking of which, if we were to start talking more on the listing side and prepping for selling, right now we are gearing for fall market. So if we are to prep our sellers for some things that they can do to brace for fall pictures and fall buyers, what are some things that you've learned, versus foliage or anything else that you would suggest sellers do to prep going into fall, winter, which tends to be a little bit slower, but they could have an advantage if they are looking nice, bright and tight, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean, face value on your house, like I'd say going back to that previous listing, looking at the pictures are the reason that it even went under contract in the first place, and it looked nice from the outside. So going into a season where you can make things look tidy, you can make your home look very appealing, you can hire a great photographer to display a clean
Or better
home.
yet, hire the realtor that hires the great photographer.
Wow. Sorry, let me backstab. Hire the realtor first.
Yeah.
Let the realtor put the pieces in place. But I will say face value does play a huge factor into a home selling quickly, as opposed to something that might sit on the market because things look a little less appealing. Like what issues are going on with this property? Let me wait and see what
I think
transpires.
that's something else I've noticed, and with you working with your buyers, like the pictures, they're already going to make a decision. And if the pictures aren't looking, if there's some things that are getting flagged in the pictures, they're not going to want to get out there. If your pictures at least look good, and we all do know there's a little false advertising sometimes that happens, a little schmidge of editing. But to get the buyer out there to that property and at least get to see the opportunity of what it presents versus if the pictures just don't look good, curb appeal. So we're talking fresh. I'm a big fan of black mulch, fresh mulch. Right now we're going into fall, so we're going to want some mums. We're going to want some darker greens, right? Maybe a pumpkin or two. Keep cutting your grass, I think, until like November. Leaves are the biggest thing. I think that's the worst thing at my property right now, other than half-finished mulch. It is all of the little the flyer helicopter things from the oak trees that fly, or whatever type of trees they are that fly around. Is that birch? I don't know. And it's all over the place. So just keeping that clean, blowing stuff off, I think is a good thing for sellers. And then of course the heavy duty stuff, which we can come back and talk about on another video. But again, just being presentable. Right? I mean, all right, so with that crazy listing that we were chatting about, we were talking about numbers and lenders and things like that. Obviously, with financing comes an appraisal. What happened with the appraisal with this one? Because the seller came to you with an appraisal.
Yes. And
you ended up selling it for how much over that appraisal, and then what happened with the buyer's appraisal?
Okay, so the first appraisal was under what we listed for because we were pretty confident that we could work past the issues that appraiser had and why he appraised it that low.
Issues.
Yeah, right. So, the issues. So, first things first, it pays to have good communication between you and your realtor. Understanding what happens if your appraisal comes in low. Okay, so if you put an offer on a house, you're agreeing the house is worth that much. So if an appraiser comes in and they say, we agree the house is worth that much, that's a good thing. You don't want to contest that. And so we were in a situation where the buyers actually, am I allowed to say this?
Yeah, go ahead.
The buyers actually contested the appraisal, and I believe because they were a first-time home buyer that they didn't know that. First off, you don't want to do that.
How much over, was it over the purchase price, the appraisal?
No, they put the offer in, and it came in at the price. And I think we were all very surprised.
And they wanted it to come in lower?
They wanted it to come in lower because I don't think they realized that you're then responsible for that cash at closing. And mind you, they had already passed multiple contingency dates, so if their financing fell through because of the low appraisal, I mean, that was goodbye deposit on the next one.
And I think what you're trying to say is maybe some education between the client, the lender, and the realtor, making sure that all parties and their parties involved are on the same page as to how the loan process works, what happens when the appraisal comes in at value, below value, and above value, and what the options are to deal with it from each of those standpoints. And sometimes there's so many different things going on that there's like a misconception as to how appraisals actually work and what that dictates with your cash to close.
And another note with that is don't let your realtor make the decisions for you. As a buyer or a seller, you hire the realtor to guide you in the best possible direction, but know everything. Know all the facts about the property you're buying first. Know about your own home before you sell it, and make sure your realtor is helping you do that due diligence. But don't let someone make decisions for you, because when they come back and bite you, I mean, to be quite frank, I saved the buyer his own headache, and I saved my seller the headache on that transaction.
You did, and you learned a lot, and now bringing a lot of value to your future clients, which is great, and I agree with you 100%. I think our job and what value we bring to the table on past marketing and finding the home into certain points of the transaction is providing the education to all possible scenarios.
Absolutely.
Right? Best case, worst case, this is what could happen, this is my opinion, and what I feel would benefit you to the best potential, but it's ultimately up to the client to make that call and decision.
Absolutely.
They're the ones that are signing. So with that said, thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sharing all that. Thanks for going through hell to share all this wisdom and insight with us.
I'm looking for the next hellish project.
I mean,
so I can have more
maybe
answers.
every once in a while, right? Just every other.